Welcome to the Green Wisdom Health Podcast with Dr. Stephen and Janet Lewis, where you will learn about natural solutions to common ailments. And now, here are your hosts, Dr. Stephen and Janet Lewis.
Hello and welcome to this week's show. I am Janet Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Lewis.
And we are here to bring you a very exciting show again, as usual, called Are Your Kids Squirmy, Wormy, or Depressed? And I know that's a very exciting title and covers so much. And Dr. Lewis is surely going to tell us why all these things are happening.
Janet keeps saying this is an exciting show. Sometimes there's a difference between excitement and enjoyment. So, yeah.
Or maybe fun show, another fun show. But,
I just got the look.
But we are going to address today why children have ADD, ADHD.
And it's because, Tricia, you asked the question, honey. I'm going to answer you.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of questions, actually, to answer in our new question and answer segment. And I appreciate all of y'all for chiming in on our Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis on Facebook. And if you don't know what that is, you may send him a request to join his closed group. And
I'll take anybody. Yeah.
It's shooting with no G on the end because we are from Texas. And in case you've not heard him, he does have a Texan accent.
I had a guy I did a podcast from Britain. He corrected me. He said, "This is the UK." Yesterday, he said, "Man, you have quite the little accent." I said, "And you think you don't?"
Yeah, it was pretty cute. I thought I couldn't understand him, so Dr. Lewis got to talk to him by himself.
Yeah.
But we are going to figure out why kids are having issues and what's changed, because I know that was not an issue when we were growing up. We're not going to say how old we are, but back in the time when we were younger, you never heard of the ADD, ADHD. There was not an issue with it. It seemed to come into play in maybe the 90s, I'm guessing, is about the time you started hearing more of the kids getting on Ritalin. And as this has progressed on, it seems like they're all on something or supposed to be on something to stay seated at school.
They told us not to do speed when I was a kid, and now they're putting kids on speed all the time. Yeah, well, that makes sense.
So can you go into what is causing the rise in ADHD? What's happening that maybe there's a 22% increase in ADHD from 2003? So they now say that 1 in 10 American children now have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Is that all? Only 10%?
Well, that was in 2010. So.
There's a lot of things that filter into that, and I think part of it's because it's no longer appropriate to whip their butt. And a lot of people say, "Well, I don't want to do that." Well, you look at nature. Even in nature, if you will look and be careful, that they use negative or they use pain to motivate the young ones to act correctly. Now, I'm not talking about beating. I'm not talking about abuse. And Lord knows we don't need any of that. But there's nothing wrong with spanking a child. So we do things for two reasons: to move toward pleasure or to avoid pain. And unfortunately, most of us use pain to motivate us to do something correctly. I'm more of a pleasure seeker, but why is it on the rise? Because our food is terrible. It's not very nutrient dense. We're putting them on more sugar, more carbs, more dyes and additives. And I know there's people who said that doesn't make any difference. Yeah, well, give your kid a bunch of, I'll try not to name names, but sugar and dye-laden candies, and see what happens a few hours later. It's definitely getting worse, and part of it's like, well, you just need to spank them. And I'm going to get into probiotics hopefully sometime because when my daughter had her neck surgery and we were responsible for the kids, the grandkids, their behavior changed within a week because we put them on fish oil and probiotics, because fish oil has a tendency to decrease inflammation. The DHA can help rebuild the brain, and there was a major change in behavior within a week.
That's interesting you say that, because we noticed with their diet, because they're in our home a lot of the time. We get to see them eat. And somehow you don't have the authority in your own home that you do everywhere else. I'm not sure how that happens, but we're old and don't really know. But
yeah, I'm an authority all over the country, and thank you for that. But sometimes your kids don't listen to you.
Right. And so
did I say that?
So there's a lot of dairy going on in the house that's and most not organic.
And Nutella sandwiches. It's like
and cheese. And we noticed that the more this grandchild that's
the one in question,
four,
she's sweetheart,
eats of this, the more her behavior becomes aggressive, irritable. She's more congested and snotty.
I was going to say she's a little snot when she eats that way, and we love her. She really is a wonderful girl, very very intelligent. And, opens her arms and says, "Papa," and comes running for a hug. But again, you can't expect a child to function correctly when their little guts are full of sugars and dyes and have the bad bacteria in there. And I'm going to get into that too, how the bad bacteria steal your neurotransmitters.
And when she eats better, it's like there's a whole new child.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people think that there's something wrong with their child because they act that way.
Oh, hyperactivity is not a deficiency of Ritalin?
Right. I mean, they think there's something mentally wrong with them. They're going to psychiatrists. They're taking them because the school's telling them, hey, there's something wrong with your kid. We're going to section them out and make an example out of them. And you feel guilty because you feel like you're doing something wrong when it really may just be very much diet related and lack of probiotics.
Yeah, thanks Trish Maples for opening up this can of worms. And when we say squirmy and wormy, I'm not talking about worms.
That was the can of worms.
Anyway, it's a carbohydrate addiction, and there's been books written on it. I've written articles on it. And that's true of us too. I definitely have more ADD, ADHD than I had years ago. And I think, because of our television watching and now on, the computers and iPads and iPhones and whatever it is, Janet, throws me into the 21st century with, I don't have the attention span that I used to, or the patience to watch some of this stuff. So we're actually really and truly consuming maybe 3 times as much carbohydrates as we did just a very, very few decades ago. That adversely affects our weight, that adversely affects psychological, physical, and emotional problems that go with it. So if you already have a little bit of a propensity toward that, eating the simple carbohydrates will increase the speed of it. And what else is in? If it's even carbohydrates turn to sugar, but if you knew how much sugar you were eating every day, it's sugar, and it's not good for you. We had a bank come courting yesterday. And of course, they brought a big bucket of all kinds of chocolates, and I said, "Oh God, that's not going to be good." So America consumes 600 or more calories per day on sweets, and that does not include fruit. And oh God, let's open up that can of worms. Fruit's full of fructose, and if you need to lose weight and quit being squirmy, you need to get off of fruit. And I had one lady bow up her fist. I mean, she made fist and bowed up toward me and says, "I don't believe that God made fruit." And of course, her blood sugar was getting worse, and she was having more and more problems. I said, "Yeah, but fruit should be seasonal, and fruit is a lot sweeter than it was 100 years ago. And your A1C is going up, and your insulin is going up, so you're more insulin resistant. So you might need to lay off the fruit just because of the fructose until you get that under wraps, so to speak." So obesity's, become epidemic in children, and it's the carb-rich foods. And what we have a preference for that, and some people say, well, it's natural. No, it's not. It's the cravings that come from the yeast and bad bacteria that grow in your small intestine and large intestine, and bless its heart, small intestine's kind of getting overlooked. Now they're finally beginning to talk about small intestine bacterial overgrowth, and small intestine is kind of overlooked. It's a very important organ. But you look at a child that doesn't eat anything but starches, snack foods, junk food, sweets. that some of them are normal weight and some of them are underweight, but then they show their ill effects, not necessarily by getting obese, but by being fidgety. And it changes with the learning. They have lowered ability to learn, behavioral problems, social problems, mood related problems. And there's some people say, well, they'll outgrow it. No, not necessarily. And you usually know that's not really true. So all of that and not being able to fit in with the kids that are better fed kind of leaves them with a low self-esteem, and that kind of gives them a sense of hopelessness. So that's why I think we should become informed and reach out and help them. My drug dealer came in the other day. She's a Girl Scout selling cookies, and I won't tell you how much I gave her, but her parents said, man, you're her best customer. I said, yeah, but I don't eat those. I might eat 3 or 4 boxes in a year, but I give them away. So oh God, I'm perpetuating this. Am I not, Janet?
Yeah, you talk out of both sides of your lips. So we're trying to figure out which way you want us to go. Buy Girl Scout cookies. Don't eat them. What do you want us to do? Be squirmy, not squirmy?
Well, I've been called a disturbing element more than once. I can't stay good for very long. I've got to step outside the circle. Isn't that true, Debbie Terry Burke? I know she's listening. She grew up with me. They always give us credit. Me and Carol Jean McDaniel give us credit for being the aberrant behavioral ones. Well, we're more fun than the rest of y'all too. So Debbie will say, yep, you're right about that. So, but I don't have a constant diet. You know, I'll talk about this because I like to step outside the circle, but you don't see me just eating an avocado or a handful of walnuts for supper, and I do a lot of that. So,
and he takes a whole lot of supplements. So that when you do so many vitamins and minerals like we do, you can get by with a little bit of that because you're inundating your body with so much nutrition. But people that are having a hard time and aren't taking anything, and then they're eating that way, and their gut takes over and starts dictating to them what they're going to have, that's the problem. That starts messing with your mind. So it's everything in moderation, right?
Yes, ma'am, for everybody but me. Yeah, I really do eat better than I sound. Being raised a Baptist, and we were kind of restricted, so I had to kind of step outside the circle a little bit. But if you've got something that's got a lot of cane sugar, even beet sugar, fruits, or corn, or high fructose corn syrup, you really want to stay away from it. And the carbs will mess with your insulin, and that over release of insulin kind of sets up a series or a cascade of inappropriate or abnormal physical responses in a child that can lead to the psychological and behavioral problems. And it messes with your serotonin. And serotonin is the neurotransmitter that we call, this is our term, the peace of God. And we sell a lot of stuff that helps your body make serotonin. And so the higher insulin levels that your body puts out because of the intake of sugars and simple carbohydrates, the young kids release and have an inappropriate rise of insulin, and that causes the neurotransmitter to be lessened because you're feeding yeast and bad bacteria in your GI tract, and they interfere, or sometimes some research says they actually utilize the neurotransmitters so they don't go from your gut to your brain. And I've quoted this guy for years, and Janet got me his book. It's The Second Brain by Gershorn, Dr. Gershorn. It's a little bit technical, which I like, but some people may not. But if you want to know how much your GI tract influences your brain and your behavior, that's a really, really good book. So when I say you're feeding the yeast and the bad bacteria and not the good probiotics, and you need to take probiotics for a long, long, long time. I made a note somewhere. I can't find it. But after antibiotics, and sometimes they're very necessary. I'm not knocking them, of course. I love my MD. But after the antibiotics, it can take you months or years, yes, to reestablish the good bacteria back in your GI tract. And that's medical research. That's not my opinion. But for example, and I've mentioned this before because I think it's super important. If you go the bifidobacterium, that increases serotonin, that's the peace of God hormone, but it normalizes your immune system response. Then you've got the lactobacillus. There's several different types of lactobacillus that decreases your anxiety, alters your GABA receptors, which means calming. So probiotics. Then there's different types of, there's a bifidobacterium longum that decreases your cortisol, which is your stress response, and lactobacillus casei that decreases anxiety. And there's a lot of other similar things done by either the lactobacillus or the bifidobacterium. So stick it in, you can sprinkle it over something if it's not real hot, it's not going to kill it. I've been known to stir it in a spoonful of ice cream while I was giving it to the grandkid. And I know that's kind of not the best delivery route, but you got to get it when you can. Get it in any way that you can.
Well, there are 5 dietary factors to address if your child has ADD or ADHD.
Or the inability to say that.
Yes. Oh, and that's what I was going to ask you, because the dietary factors are too much sugar, gluten sensitivity, too few beneficial bacteria, like Dr. Lewis was talking about.
I love bacteria.
Food additives and GMO ingredients, and then animal-sourced omega-3 deficiency. I wanted you to explain a little bit about why it's an animal-sourced omega-3 deficiency. What exactly does that mean?
God, and I treat massive amounts of vegans, and they say, but I'm getting it from algae. You're getting about 3% of what you could get from fish oil. And I've got 2 vegans that will not compromise at all. The rest of them do, and they do so much better. So low omega-3s. Omega-3s are the big-time anti-inflammatory ones that if you're low in that, these kids are more likely to be hyperactive and have learning disorders and behavioral problems. We've seen bad kids get good just by changing their diet and their gut microbiome. So they're not bad kids, just they have some relatively bad behavior. I think it's better just to do the fish oil or sometimes krill oil because they can get such huge good changes. But most people think it's going to happen too quickly. And no, you need to give it 3 months, 6 months, a year, because it takes time to heal all this stuff.
Well, and one of the questions that came from Tricia, and which is part of why we made this show.
Tricia, you're such a busy girl up there. And where are you? Iowa. Geez, I'm so sorry. I don't know. Somewhere up there. She's a Midwesterner.
Well, it was about emotional volatility, sadness.
And I know she's not talking about her children.
Anger and etc. Says, in particular, what's up with kids and increased anxiety and depression? Well, in addition to what Dr. Lewis is telling you here, we have found great success with a product called Neurolink. So much so we can hardly keep it on the shelf because the parents notice that their kids act so much better when they're on Neurolink. And it's a combination of a lot of different mind products.
Things that your body can use, and it's got enough B6, and it's the activated B6. God, I'm sorry. I just interrupted my wife.
Oh, no. I wanted you to explain it because I know that's one of your favorite products.
Men, be polite to your wife. I'm so sorry. I interrupt a lot. But Janet's nice to me, thank goodness. The activated B6, and you have to have that in order for these neurotransmitters to cross the blood-brain barrier. Most of us are B6 deficient because it's not so much in your food. Even if it was, it's shipped from California to Texas. from the Midwest down to Texas. There's my accent. But this has got tyrosine, which is an amino acid that has all kinds of factors. That's even good for the thyroid, but kind of the piece of God too. Then it's got the GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, glutamine, which can help the mind in a big way, but glutamine is absolutely famous for helping the cell walls heal in the GI tract. Y'all remember the gut-brain connection? Inositol, taurine, and 5-HTP, 5-hydroxytryptophan. It's a really good kick-butt product in working, and I really get people that do real well in a smaller dose than what it says on the bottle.
Good. Well, I think that's probably a really great place to start to help, put some good nutrition back in to help the kids stay in their seats. I think they'll notice a big difference in how their child acts. Right. And we've come to the part of the show where we're going to answer some of these questions that people have, because we want to make sure that we've addressed those, because we got a little bit behind last week. So we're going to make sure we stay on top of it this time.
We got a little bitty behind because we've lost weight. Oh, I'm sorry.
But Lauren from right here and close by, Kaufman, Texas.
She's a sweetheart.
Wants to know about skin care and prevention. So something to take care of your skin, from wrinkles to skin cancer, because they don't want either. Now,
how smart is that Lauren is real young, and she's already smart enough to know that you need to do some maintenance.
And my favorite thing with skin is if you got problems with your skin, if you have like the little red bumps on there that come through, a lot of women get them. They look like little red moles.
Petechiae.
Oh, there you go. That's usually a liver issue. So if you detoxify the liver, those bright red little dots will get lighter and lighter.
How do you detox it? Dark beer?
And lipotropic detox.
Oh, okay.
But if it's coming out through your skin, that's your secondary eliminative channel.
God, say that fast 3 times. That's sexy.
I couldn't get the other word out, but I got that one out. Because your colon is your primary one, and y'all all know about trains coming through. So if your trains are not moving through the tunnel like they should, then the toxins start coming out through the skin. So then your skin starts aging faster, and you start getting issues with it.
Well, we've got some stuff that actually, some people take collagen, and that's good. But there are different qualities of these things. Depends on where the source comes from. A lot of our products or parts of our products actually come from other countries like New Zealand or Argentina, where you can source things that are much nicer and not polluted like they are here in America. We have one that actually helps you make your own collagen. It's called Regenermax Plus. Now, you can't get on our website and buy that unless you're a bona fide patient. So if you really, really want it,
make an account online and then let me know. It's a little, they want to make sure that their products aren't being counterfeited across the internet. So they're very careful about who they sell the product to start with.
Yeah.
But their products are excellent. And the company is called Zymogen. And if you'll make an account and let me know you've made one, I'll upgrade you to where you are a patient and you can purchase the product. But I'll put that in the show notes as the product so you can remember the names. I know people are having trouble remembering some of the names of some of the things we're saying.
Yeah, and some of the way they put it together is actually patented, and it's about your body making its own collagen. Yeah, that's very important.
Right, and those are capsules because a lot of people come in and buy collagen actually, and we're pretty excited that
it's all the women with no wrinkles. So did it get rid of their wrinkles or did it prevent them?
And this Regenemax is supposed to get rid of fine line wrinkles.
I don't know. Janet doesn't have any, and I've got good eyesight because I've had eye surgery. So do you get somebody that's as young and asking very intelligent questions like Lauren? You're destined to a healthier life. And when I tell Lauren, I said, you're a really blessed young lady that you have a mother that loves you enough and buys this, helps you with it. And of course, is successful enough to do it and that not be an issue. Well, the thing about success is, and here's the problem in people that are not healthy. you start focusing on what's wrong. And if you focus on the misses in life, if you focus on the hits or what's going right, you get well at a very, very accelerated rate. Well, when you hurt, it's easy to focus on what's wrong. But if you can ever shift that focus, you can get well at incredible speeds, like almost miraculous. And I think Ben Franklin said something to that effect. The only trouble with success is that so few people know it when they see it. So if you find a good program and you really like it, stick with it.
Okay, and then we've got a few more questions here because we're going to try to move faster through it and we're running out of time.
I ain't got 2 speeds, honey, and this is fast.
It's our Texas slow draw.
Yep.
Joe L. would like to know ways to increase our body's ability to absorb nutrients and things that cause the body not to absorb nutrients.
Oh, I love that because all the time, and I just talked to a lady in Minnesota, a sweet lady. She said, well, I'm doing this, and this. I said, it doesn't matter what you put in the body because most of the time you're not absorbing but a very small amount. So my opinion, digestive enzymes and probiotics. Probiotics and digestive enzymes, more digestive enzymes and probiotics, and they have to be good ones because there's a lot of stuff that's really not what it says it is, and we're very careful about where we source our stuff, and it makes a big difference. So you will absorb more, and, beware of people that advertise, it's smoke, mirrors, and Janet's giving me a look. I think I'll stop right there. Sometimes it sounds good, but it's not really what they say. Yeah, she had that satisfying look like, I shut down my husband's thought process.
Oh, I know my husband's thought process.
You didn't shut it down. You just kept it from coming out.
We have 2 more questions here.
Yes, ma'am.
We're going to take. The first one is, Dr. Lewis, what do you suggest to take for excruciating leg cramps that wake somebody up in the middle of the night? This came from Kelly K.
And the good thing is we had somebody answer her before we could get there and said they get really good results from reacted magnesium.
So you people are listening to us. We're so happy. You're learning.
We kind of like the shooting straight with Dr. Lewis, and I answered a jillion questions this morning before I could get into my coffee. So y'all forgive me for whatever it was I might have said. Magnesium, I would always suspect as being the number one
and is that
missing.
Just any magnesium? Is that could you tell the differences? And because some people come in and say, I'm going to get that magnesium Dr. Lewis talked about. There are differences in the magnesium. Yeah,
the reacted magnesium is something that's a very more steady about absorption. For those of you that's constipated, you need magnesium citrate. And I just talked to a pilot before we came in here to do this. And I asked him about his bowel movements because he was asking me about what probiotics he needed. And I said, well, how often do you have bowel movements? He said, I'm real regular. I said, okay, well, is that once a day? He said, no, once every 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, skin problems.
Yeah. Just because it's common don't mean it's normal. And I said, well, regular is usually 2 or 3 times a day, generally after you eat a meal. And he said, well, when he's doing his piloting and, when he's home and has a more regular schedule, he poops more regular. But if you don't poop, 2 or 3 times a day, you need magnesium citrate. But reacted magnesium, yeah, that's really good. That's what I take.
Cool. Okay, and our last question is, for people traveling, is there anything that they can take to help keep the so-called bugs away? And I would like you to address the Viracid as well again, because some people couldn't remember the name of it.
Who sent that question in?
Katie L.
Yeah. Well, Katie L. ordered everything I told her to order. That's the key. It's not getting the information. The key is actually doing it. The answer to people say, well, I didn't get it on the podcast. Well, listen to the podcast again. The name of it's Viracid, Viracid. And Janet said,
what does that do?
Well, it gives your body immune system boosting stuff. And Janet thought she's coming down with the flu the other day. She said, there's no way I can do it. We're just way too busy. And she started taking this. The next morning, she says, wow, I feel so much better.
I actually prayed to God and said, could I get a rain check on this if this is what I'm coming down with? Because I don't really have time for it. And he must have agreed and told me to take Viracid.
Yeah.
And it worked. It's like, you had the achy feeling like you were beginning to come down with it. And I took 2 of them. And it says 1, but I got scared and I took 2. And
More's always better, honey.
Sure. And I took 2 every 2 hours until the achiness stopped, which it would start creeping back again after about 4 hours. So about a day of doing the Viracid, it was gone. And I'm thinking, yay. I didn't want to experience it, but I can tell you, it does work.
So I told this lady about that, the Lorcedin, olive leaf, which is always good, and probiotics. And, that's pretty much could take care of anything, I think. The
olive leaf's a natural antibiotic, and the probiotics, if you get food poisoning, our favorite one is N8, either the 20 or the 50/14, because it does kill food poisoning.
Yes, but orthobiotic because it's room temperature stable. We've got about 18 choices here, so we all have different favorites.
So if you don't know what to pick, because now we've confused you really bad, like I said, friend or be asked to be added to the Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis on Facebook. You can email us.
And I'll answer questions before coffee, so you never know what you're going to get then.
And if you're really confused and don't know where to start and just feel horrible, go to our website at greenwisdomhealth.com, fill out the health survey, and let Dr. Lewis guide you to what lab panel would be best for you to get started to start having a life worth living again.
We'll guide you with a Southern accent.
And we'll guide you to your local lab. But we hope you've enjoyed today's show. And please, if you have questions and would like your questions answered on the next show, just shoot us an email, or like I said, go on Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis and ask him some more questions there, and we'll answer them on the next podcast. And we really hope your day is blessed, and we will talk with you right here next time on the Green Wisdom Health Show.
Once again, our show has come to an end, but your hope in your health is only beginning. If you or a loved one are in need of a different outcome and are waiting for a brighter future, take the first step and go to our website and fill out the health survey. Please don't keep us a secret. If you know someone that could benefit from this podcast, please share this show with your friends and family. You are only one step away from a life worth living.